But I think we're missing the speakers. From here. Yeah. Are you now? Frank Marina, can you unmute yourself? So we test your connection as well.
Hi, can you hear me?
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Okay, so we are doing some test. We will start in a few minutes, just checking if everyone is here. So actually, the group facility is connected. Units. No, so we are missing. Okay, maybe they will connect later. If you get in contact with your colleagues who shall present in the other session, especially thank you, because I see that the other colleagues of yours are not attending, so you can ask them to join. So we have everyone online, and then we can start. Because I see that everyone else from Epic Africa is not connected yet.
Okay, so Eunice will connect online.
Yes.
Carlos will be there in person, and then Eric would also connect online.
But okay, Carlos. In which session? Okay, Carlos. He's not here. No, he's not here. Okay, I'm checking that. No.
Okay,
So
I'll follow up to check whether he's on his way or he got stuck somewhere.
yeah,
But he should be there.
so we're just doing some tests. Okay, you should also be able to see the screen, right?
Yes, I can see your screen.
So I don't have any. Should I record the screen or is it to?
I think after that's a
Recording, okay, because then the maker would need the recording.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And they asked to only recording sessions and have like 1 hour chat. Okay, yeah. I saw she was emailing maybe about Teams. Oh, good.
So just checking, so the speakers for the first session are here for the project presentation. All the PowerPoints will be shared from here in the room, so Mariam will share it and you will see it displayed. Just say change slide and she will do that. For the second step in the instructions of possibilities online, we Eunice, we are missing it. Eric proposal is also missing. Nicola, sorry, can you get in contact maybe very quickly with Francesco Roncallo because he's not connected, or do you know if he will connect later on?
Sure. I'll send it out.
Yes. A few minutes and then we usually start.
Okay.
Yes. Ottoni, the ONEPlanET project coordinator. I'm happy that we also have several attendees connected online for these joint event with sister projects that we're having today, called Synergies for Sustainable Energy Transition in Africa, Perspective from 4 sister projects. As you can see from the agenda, we will have a different session today, starting with a more general one, where all the 4 projects involved will provide a short presentation of the overall project. Then we will dive a little bit more into details, since all the 4 projects are dealing with case studies in Africa, looking at energy transition, and they are creating some models. So we will have one session dedicated about modeling, then energy transition in Africa, looking at the policy agenda and policy barriers, and then third and last panel discussion about the challenges that we are all facing within these projects, just maybe also understand and learn from other projects, and then looking at the stakeholders engagement strategy. So I think we can officially start with the first session. And so I will ask to Nicola to come here with me on this very little stage that we have. I know that Marina and Frank are connected remotely. So you can sit there, yes. I will join you very briefly. So for this first session, we will have the presentation of the ONEPlanET project, Emerge project, Reintegrate, and Epic Africa. Some of the speakers are connected remotely. So maybe we can start with their presentation. Maybe we can start with the Reintegrate project. Just a few seconds that we
need to know from which side it's going. Yeah.
Yeah, the one. Yeah. The Reintegrate. Yeah.
Center?
Or here.
I think it's
okay, perfect. Yes. So Marina, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I hope you can hear me properly, and thank you for managing the slides. I apologize for us not being able to be there and meet everybody in person. Hope we'll have other opportunities. So my name is Marina Henriksson. I represent the Reintegrate project. We're a large team. We manage the project from Stockholm, KTH, Royal Institute of Technology. And the project it's called Reintegrate, and the idea behind the name was that we're going to rethink the integrated energy strategies for both unions. Please turn to the next slide. Yeah, so the goal is ambitious, but rather simple. We'd like to analyze and understand the existing energy planning ecosystems, both in and across the EU and EU. And within them to establish an enabling and non-exclusive environment for both sharing the knowledge that is already out there and being produced within the project, developing the modeling toolkits that fit for purpose, fit to context, and establishing this environment for modeling expertise on climate-compatible energy strategies. Next slide, please. So it's funded by the European Union as the rest of the sister projects. We started in September 1st last year, so it's been more than a year already, and it's a 3.5 years project. It's 2.5 million euros for 16 different institutions. We have 8 institutions from the EU and 8 from Africa. You can see us on the map and their logos. So we have more specific objectives of the project. So we're working towards formalizing those partnerships across 8 national energy planning ecosystems in the African Union and integrating them into the EU high-level policy dialogue, which is the intention of this call from the EU to establish this ecosystems that will support this process on a higher level. we are carrying out in partnerships together across all the modeling teams, the integrated energy economy environment modeling assessments of those climate compatible energy development strategies that are there to produce actionable evidence for decision making. So it's evidence-based decision making in that sense within the entire partnership, both for the climate change action and the sustainable energy development. So we intend to develop practical and actionable recommendations so we can support those communities and policymakers for coherent and compatible policy response that will fit the multiple and interrelated goals of both of the unions. We're focusing on establishing a monitoring and evaluation process so we can understand and sort of control for quality, the quality of knowledge sharing between the countries that we're working with and beyond. And then we, of course, have the dissemination, communication, and exploitation work package and the goal to spread out the knowledge that we're creating. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, those are the more specific work packages. So to achieve our goals, we are working on specific tasks. And then, for example, I'm not going to walk you through all of them, but for example, it could be probably most clear to all of you as a part of a modeling community what we can do within the modeling work packages. But in terms of partnerships and policy making and building a community, this is something that we believe makes Reintegrate rather unique, and that's where the contribution comes from. So we're having combination of approaches where we look at the needs of the stakeholders, we look at the potential that we can explore or exploit when it comes to developing national strategies. And then we have a few steps to follow to support these goals within the work packages. Next slide, please. Can you? Yes. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So we have this roughly two tracks. One is modeling. We have 8 national cases in Tunisia, Ethiopia, Kenya, Mauritius, Zambia, South Africa, DRC, and Senegal. We engage the modelers through stakeholder workshops. So it's both awareness raising of the existing tools and then policies as well. The method and approach that we use is a participatory storyline. There are quite a few models that each modeling team contributes with. And then we have already collected the first insights from the first outcomes over the summer. And then there is an aspect of capacity development or capacity building where it's needed through the modeling. So we do train the community, we train the trainers in particular. We have participated in several events jointly with other communities that conduct similar kind of activities. And we already have a few results. So we have few trainers that have been trained, and then we're developing a badge system where we will certify these skills and knowledge so people can actually demonstrate or prove the level of their skills. And yeah, we have a few cross-cutting regional integration themes for electricity trade, for example. It's osmosis, Asemba, and Temba models, and I believe in the next session, Pacific will tell you more details what it means. And then we also have a tool to look at the role of hydrogen. And then if you're interested, and if you follow us on social media, you have a chance to participate in our monthly public modeling workshops on select themes, and you're more than welcome to suggest themes and subjects that you are interested in, and then we'll try to accommodate those requests. Next one, please. Yeah, so there's an example of sort of like an overview of all of the tools that are used by different teams in different countries, and it's a combination based on the existing capacity, but also on based on needs of the particular energy planning tools. And then we have open source and open data platforms that we also believe is one of the strengths of the Reintegrate, and this is something that contributes to our goals of non-exclusive community building. I'm not going to go into details of what it is there. I hope you get slides later. Please, let's move to the next one. Yeah, this is for an example like that we already have as an outcome from one of our case countries. And then this is the type of questions that this exercise allows you to ask and then to get answers for. Like, for example, for Zambia, Hydra is a significant aspect that needs to be explored or understood, or, well, is relevant for their planning. And then this is what the model allows you to do with the sector. Yeah, can we please go further? So yeah, and then from this is one of the examples from how we engage with the stakeholders for the work package that works on the policy side, where we developing or helping the teams contributing to the process, developing coherent and compatible policy responses. So through the workshops, we investigate and analyze policy needs and then existing responses. And we have a tool or a set of methods that allows us to understand what are the impacts of actors, objectives, and their, well, power, not in terms of energy, but in terms of power over setting the agenda on the design of the models and the outputs. Here we also look at the need for finance. So we have a tool that allows us, or it's a tool that is in development, we're considering too, that allows us to understand the access to finance needs, and then also build a tool that will allow the actors to actually conduct this analysis themselves later on. And then we, in the same in the same work package, we are introducing aspects of supporting the existing both energy and climate partnerships and networks in the region. So this is one of the focus areas where we try to identify those communities, engage with them, and establish dialogue and try to find where we can collaborate and not overlap in our efforts, and see where we can contribute to the ongoing efforts. Next slide, please. Yeah, and of course, we have the outreach and capacity development activities, which we're happy for you to engage and spread the word. So we participate in the annual energy modeling platform for Africa, and the energy modeling platform joint global training, which is happening and happened this year. So train the trainer events. First event already happened in August. It was a hybrid event, and we had both on-site participation and presence online. We participate in the LEAP REAP Forum and RESCOL this year, and then we will engage in disseminating activities at the COP this year in Baku. Hopefully will be hosted by the EU Pavilion, and if somebody is also there, that would be a great opportunity to meet in person. We'll have a team traveling. We have scientific advisory board that is actively engaged in providing feedback on our both scientific contribution and also the network building part. And then, as I mentioned already, this monthly modeling webinars that we are happy to introduce to the entire community. So more logos from the partners, in case you forgot who we are or didn't catch it. So this is it from me, and I hope I stayed within the time limit.
Thank you, Marina. Very interesting presentation. So we can continue. Maybe I can give the floor to the second speaker online. So from the Epic Africa, you can proceed with the Epic Africa Yes project. So Frank, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great.
All right. So my colleagues, I think Eunice has been able to join or will join shortly because he had some commitments as well. And then Eric would also be able to join later. Carlos was, I think he's in the room probably because he was trying to find his way around. It's just nice to meet all these other projects and partners, and we'll look forward to collaborating. So I'll talk about the EPIC Africa project, which is more about integrated assessment of climate, land, energy, water nexus, looking at two basins in Africa, the Tana Basin and then the Volta Basin. There are, I would say, 4 partners from Africa, and then another 3 partners from Europe, TU Delft, KTH, and Vito. And then the rest of the partners are from Ghana. So we have TAMO, the Volta Basin Authority, the University of Energy and Natural Resources, and then CARO in Kenya. Okay, next slide. So maybe some of you know already the Volta Basin, but this is a basin shared by 6 countries. But the larger proportion of this is between Ghana and Burkina Faso. So also we sort of concentrate our activities in these 2 countries, although we extend this to the other basin countries as well. Next slide, please. And then the Tana Basin is, we concentrate on the portion of the basin just within Kenya. So here you have 2 basins that we are working with, one that is shared by different countries, and then one that is within the same country, but shared by different counties. So also to understand the dynamics there. The next slide, please. So the Volta Basin has a lot of competing uses. Normally you like to have irrigation downstream, and then you have your hydropower upstream, but in the Volta Basin is the opposite. So you have more the irrigation upstream, and then the huge hydropower plant downstream, which is the Akosombo Dam, and then also the pond dams. And of course, you can see a lot of issues with forests becoming agriculture, and also a lot of settlements happening. Next slide, please. Of course, with modeling, you have to understand what is going on within the country and how that also affects the basin. So even though we are trying to build a model that looks at the basin, we need to really understand the intricacies within the various countries. And therefore means that we have to delve deep down within Burkina Faso and Ghana because they have the largest portion of the basin, and to understand what is going on in terms of agriculture, in terms of water use, and as well as energy. The next slide, please. So the challenges in the Volta Basin, even though it's transboundary, is similar to the challenges that we have in Kenya, mainly as a result of competing uses. There's a lot of uncoordinated financing in terms of wealth infrastructure. And basically, we want to see whether we'll be able to bring these sectors together so we'll be able to optimize the utilization of the resources that we have in the basin. There are some data sharing policies governed by the VBA Convention in 2007, but adherence to this and data sharing and information to support the implementation of this is quite challenging. So the idea is also to use this project to foster that sort of relationship. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the EPIC Africa project aims at how we can discuss issues on uncertainty regards to long-term models, but also dispatch models. Try to also look at the generation of clean energy, bring African experts together, especially within the basins of interest, that is Burkina Faso, Ghana, Kenya, but also other countries that are interested, and then also to see how we can improve the governance and knowledge sharing in terms of thinking the WEF way, and then ensuring that both environmental, social, and economic trade-offs are well optimized. The next slide, please. To do this, we need to ensure that we use some integrated models, and there's a very clear interaction between water models, energy models, food models. And we need to also understand the pressures that are coming with regards to the global climate. There are other market drivers that we need to also incorporate. So when you see on your screen on the right, we have the clues framework that governs us. But also we look at especially explicit let's say, issues on agriculture and energy. We also look at, for example, how the planning could be done in terms of the investments, platforms that can be used for this. And most of these discussions have to take place in what we call the transition space. On your screen is transition arena, but we now call it transition space. And basically, this is where we allow innovations and people within the basin to come up with ways in which they really want to optimize the use of their resources for the benefit of the society in the basin. The transition spaces are really a deliberate attempt at capturing the visions, priorities, mobilizing capacities to make sure that there is really a very clear science policy interaction to ensure that we optimize impact with regards to the activities that we carry out within the project. Carlos will talk more about the transition space later, so I will not dwell too much on it. Next slide, please. The objectives of EPIC Africa, as I said earlier, is to ensure that we can design and develop long-term wealth optimization models for the two basins. So here, Kenya, but also Ghana, Burkina Faso. And then also to validate this with operational functionality to ensure that, we consider future climates, different market scenarios, and also to ensure that we have high spatial and temporal capturing of the challenges within these sectors and how we can actually address it using these tools that we are developing. The third objective is to enhance the science policy interactions, basically using the transition spaces. We also have what we call the EPIC Africa Network, Research Network, which also enhances the science policy interactions. And we also have developed a clues data observatory where all the data sets that are required to make decisions and also for the models are being channeled. So you have some data sets, but also there's a pipeline that links various data sets to people that might want to use it in their models or to analyze it. And this makes it easy for us to then rely on quality, but much more controlled data sets for models. The next slide, please. So the EPIC Africa project is about 2.5 million project, as also like reintegrate. So it's the same call. So I don't think anyone has more funds than the other. So we're trying to see what we can do with this budget that we have. And we have 7 key work packages. One looks at governance and trade-offs. The other one looks at the multi-scale assessment of WEF systems. Then we look at also models. So models, we have the dispatch models as well as the long-term investment models, mainly for planning. And then we have the climate services, where also we look at the data infrastructure and making sure that we have the right data sets for the models. And then based on the tools that we have developed in all these data, we need to make sure that the models are used. And therefore, we also have a work package that looks at scaling through capacity mobilization, through what we call the EPIC Africa Network. And of course, this is all well coordinated by another work package. And then we have the communications and dissemination work package, which I lead. We have multiple disciplines, and this is great for interaction and ensuring that we don't leave anyone on board. Yeah, and also to ensure that we can integrate our expertise. The next slide, please. These are just some pictures of the stakeholder engagement processes that we did when we started, making sure that we start with people on the ground, understand the issues, and then make sure that we are solving real issues on the ground that makes impact. Next slide, please. We also did some webinars. The picture on the right is a training that we held on the tools that have been developed within the project. This was in July, so about 2 months ago. Yeah. Next slide. So if you want also to find more information, you can go to our website, epicafrica.eu, and I'm happy to share any ideas or questions, answer questions that you may have. We'll talk more about the tools and also the stakeholder engagement processes, so there's no need to dwell too much on this here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. So we can continue, and this time I can leave the floor to the speaker that is here in Paris. So Nicola will give a presentation about the Emerge project. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm just.
You want to move a little?
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe I could stand there.
Yes.
Okay, if I stand here because it's easier for me to talk if I stand, and
No problem.
then I can also see the slides. Okay, so it's nice to meet you all, and it's nice to be here in person because then you can, connect the voice and the face much easier than online. I will give a short presentation about the Emerge so that we don't lose too much time on this. So the Emerge project has a similar focus to the Integrate project because they were also funded on the same goal. So we will be dealing mostly with energy system modeling. And the name is for green development of the Africa. The Emerge, as a short name, means to move something away from something and to make it visible, apparent, to make it, to come to light. So this is the idea for the name. Next slide, please. Yeah, the consortium, it has 11 partners from 9 different countries. 4 partners are from African countries and the rest are from Europe. You can see the logos here. I think we can skip this for now. It's the youngest project, if I'm not mistaken, of all. So we started in December last year. We still don't have 1 year, so we're still in the diapers, how to say it. And it's also 2.5 million grant and coordinated by us. We should go on for 36 months. And I hope that it will be enough for everything we planned. Can we go next? So the idea is to advance sustainability in Africa by providing key stakeholders with the essential tools and knowledge, and this is mostly focused on clean energy production and responsible resource use. And also we will try to bridge cultural and socio-economic gaps for a united approach to the development. Next slide. So the main project idea is that through 5 pillars, we will address key drivers and barriers that we reach. So barriers found were lack of transnational energy policies, support from the authorities and policymakers, cooperation between EU and African Union, and lack of easy-to-use tools. This can be addressed very much because a lot of tools, if you're not an expert in the tool itself, are quite difficult to understand. The drivers, especially the energy infrastructure improvement and reduction of the price for the renewables, really huge renewable energy potential, which is present in Africa and in almost every country. I don't know, there is an exception from this. So the idea is to double the rest potential, and of course the main issue is to tackle the climate change through mitigation, but adaptation. So so the objectives are to establish a network of African experts on energy modeling to boost the cooperation activities. The main project idea is to develop the emerge tool. Also, we'll deal with the regulatory frameworks in each of the partner countries and support the energy transition. Next one. As I said, the merge tools are the key pillar of the project. So you will see them in the next presentation, and I will talk more about them later and how do they work. The another pillar which is also important to us is stakeholder inclusion. We actually had the first round of stakeholder workshop in each of the country where we try to get the feedback from a wider audience on the needs when it comes to the energy planning tools, on the what do they seem appropriate in different levels for using in this way. We will also have a different study visit or exchange between the African partner countries, and of course the trainings between the African and European partners who are the tool developers, and additional capacity building events with the partner projects and so on. The last pillar is the policy and regulation, where we will develop the different policy recommendations which should result in an action plans for each of the location and a roadmap for future sustainable development of the countries. Next. So as I said, all of these inputs should be included in a merge toolbox, which should consider from tools which are dealing with evaluation of different energy capacities, flexibility of the network, different policies and their effect on the future development, social, economic, and environmental impacts, storage and grid analysis, and of course investment planning and so on. Next one. So the main part of the work is also to integrate the tool with the database. So the idea is that the tools as itself automatically are fed by the data in each of the location about the energy capacities, future demand, current demand, production, and so on. And of course, this all will be developed in open source so that it can be used, adapted further, and so that's next. About the locations, so for us, the three countries representing different situation in African Union, so Morocco, Mozambique, and Nigeria. Next slide. So just tell a bit. Oh, sorry, this one is like an animation, so just click it a couple of times. So Eastern Morocco case. Go to the other one. Next one. Yeah, just go to wrap it up. Yeah, I thought I would be the clicking. So the population is about 2.3 million. Like 65% of the population actually lives in urban areas and the cities. Unemployment rate compared to the Europe is quite high. It's around 18%, and they are somewhere in between when it comes to the economic development of the other regions. Next one. So the Niger River region, it covers the Niger River basin. It's heavily dependent when it comes to electricity production on the hydropower. We still have to decide on an exact pilot case which will be chosen here. So next one. East African case in Mozambique. This represents a quite different situation where the majority of population doesn't actually have the access to the electricity. Also, one of the least developed and poor countries when it comes to the GDP and electricity access in this way. Next one. So one of the important things of the project, we will also try to include stakeholders and citizens in the modeling activities. So they were also part of the first round of consultations where we try to see how the wider public can have use of energy planning tools. So at least in an idea that they can do some kind of a simple data input and get some results for their city, their street, maybe their own house or something like that. Next one, please. Of course, the project outputs is to reinforce the activities of the EU partnership, provide knowledge and scientific energy system. Modeling, increase clean energy generation in African energy system and create a network of African experts in the energy modeling. Next one. And the contacts and logos of the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's my turn now to give a short presentation about the ONEPlanET project. Yeah, great. So thank you. As maybe I said before, Sana Scotton, I'm the project coordinator of the ONEPlanET project. Today, so we dive a bit into some details about the project per se, but I try to be short as in the other panels, the partners will dive more into details. So the ONEPlanET project, it is an Horizon Europe funded project. We started on the 1st of November 2022. We have 12 partners, 8 are based in Europe and 4 in Africa. Here in this slide, you can have an overview of the partners involved. For those who are here in the room, it's way easier as they are all here. And I see that we have, among all the 4 projects, we have some partners in common. So next slide, please. So looking at the project goal, so ONEPlanET aims at empowering the African policymakers, researchers, academia, investors, and citizens, provide them the necessary tools and know-how that's to increase the clean energy generation and sustainable use of resources in Africa, while also looking and reducing the inequalities on cultural, social, and economic level. Then our mission within the ONEPlanET project is to co-design and test and create a toolkit that will be built upon already existing water, energy, and food nexus models and methodologies. The toolkit will allow us to simulate scenarios, optimizing the existing resources, within also looking at which are the most appropriate policies. We are taking as an example, so we are basing on the 3 case studies that we have in the project, but I will tell you a bit more about them in the next slide. However, no problem. We will also create a knowledge hub that will be publicly accessible, as well as the toolkit, and they will be all available in the project website. And we will be sharing all the capacity building materials and all, let's say, tools and models that we will create. So at the end, the ONEPlanET toolkit aims at really supporting the policymakers in their day-to-day work. And as I said, all these will be open access. So looking at the case studies, so for the ones that are here, we also have some posters with a lot more details about the case studies. But anyhow, so we have 3 case studies located in Africa. They are river basin area. One is in West Africa, so in Mali, along the Niger Basin area. One in between Malawi and Tanzania, so in the Songo River Basin area. One in South Africa, so in the Matu water management area. We have already, since now we are around month 23 of the project, so let's say we already passed halfway of the project life cycle. We've already engaged quite a lot with our local stakeholders. So we already had 5 local workshops in the in every case studies. All the feedback that we can get from local stakeholders are really driving our tasks and activities development. Next one, thank you very much. Very rapidly, because then my colleague Fabio will dive a bit more into the policy afterwards. Why Nexus in Africa? Because we see a lot of potential. African leaders indeed have they made clear about their commitment about a more inclusive and sustainable economic growth, also looking at energy policies, among others. And indeed, let's say, there is the agenda for 2053, which really, let's say, clears the goals that they aim to achieve. So let's say we see, as also Nicola said, there is a huge potential in Africa. So the goal is also to double the energy supply by 2030, and there is a risk potential of about 1,000 times larger than the projected demand by 2030. So for this reason, say we see a potential, and with this project, we try to do our part and support the positive progress. Going to the next one. The project, let's say, can be summarized in 4 pillars. One is the knowledge communities. So, as I said, we are really engaging a lot with stakeholders in Africa, mainly with the one from the local areas. Second pillar, it is more about co-design and test, also taking in consideration the feedback received from stakeholders. Then third and fourth pillar are about the ONEPlanET platform as Unico, looking at the ONEPlanET model, and then the capacity building material. Very quickly going pillar by pillar. So fundamental aspect of this project is the engagement with the local stakeholders. So we're really liaising on the partners network, especially Art Labs and ECRI. But other partners that are also participating in the UNESCO network, like University of Geneva. Then second pillar about the user engagement, the design methodologies to build the ONEPlanET toolkit. Also here for the toolkit development, the process is really to do user researches, then co-creation of user experience capacity building materials. But at the end, we are trying to create a model that can fit the needs of the local stakeholders. So for this reason, it was fundamental to have at the first stage events at the local level, just to really understand which are the features that stakeholders would like to see in the models, but also finally also to see how the user, so how the interface can be really tailor-made, let's say, for the stakeholders. Also here, let's say, as I said, we looked at already existing water energy with Nexus models, but we felt that they were more focusing on one-way direction, while with the ONEPlanET, we really want to look to fully investigation, and we're looking also at a bottom-up approach. And to conclude, so that's why we are investing a lot in creating capacity building material that will be also publicly available. So we are focusing on a lot to develop competencies, skills. We are also we will also have some living labs along the 3 case studies area. So let's say our goals, let's say, are informing, learning, spreading knowledge, and to make these outcomes and knowledge available for the local stakeholders also after the project ends. That should be all. Here are some details if you want to stay in contact and check about ONEPlanET project. So I think that can be all for the first session. As we saw from the agenda before, now we will dive a bit more into details with the panel discussions. So now we will discuss about the modeling. So I will ask to the speakers that are here and the moderator Zizi, so Pedro, to join here, let's say, stage. Maybe turn one chair because you are also free. Then we will have online Eunice and Pacific for the project. Okay, so I'll give you the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and also good morning to those who are online. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sisbangira. I'm from the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. I'm going to be the moderator for this session, the modeling session. So the first presenter for the mod session is going to be Pedro, then followed by Nicola, Pacific, and finally Eunice from the EPIC of Africa. So we have seen that the aim of all these projects, we have to integrate some modules, or we have to develop some modules, considering with what we have got from the stakeholders, so that we can get the results. So in the presentations, we are going to find out the names of the modules that we are going to use, and also the features of the modules. So we must pay attention and find out what are the modules that are being integrated in each of the 4 projects. So over to you, Pedro. Maybe just give a brief overview of which modules are you developing in ONEPlanET.
Perfect. So we have prepared a quick presentation to answer your questions because we have received them before. So first of all, good morning, everybody. I'm Pedro from University of Valladolid, and I'll present just a quick review of the model we are preparing for the ONEPlanET model, its features and its data needs and data challenges, because we have a lot of needs and challenges. So I don't know, Serena, if you can do the presentation. So at ONEPlanET project, we are aiming to develop an open source web nexus model to access the cross-sectoral impacts of energy infrastructure policies deployment. So we are basically developing a system dynamics model. It's a modular model, so we have like 4 modules: energy, water, food, and socioeconomic. And by deploying these energy infrastructure policies, we want to access which are the impacts on the other modules. So where here you can see the 3 cases of studies, like Serena mentioned before. The first one is the Beni River, part of the Niger River Basin here in Mali, the most upward one. The second one is the Songwe River Basin here in Tanzania and Malawi. And the third case of study is the Nkomati-Lesotho water management area here in the border between Mozambique and South Africa. So why? As Nicola was mentioning before, by 2040, the energy supply, we need the double energy supply. So the demand will be the double demand from today. The renewable energy sources potential is 1,000 times larger than the projected demand. So we need to deploy in the energy infrastructure. So renewable energy sources costs are failing, and we need more resilient infrastructure. So thanks. Next slide. So when we are planning to model, so the model aims to simulate a plausible future or possible futures to 2050, and then later we can see if we can simulate to 2100. So how we are planning to develop the model? We are planning to do an integrated assessment model using system dynamics methodology. Next slide, please. So system dynamics, it's a methodology and a mathematical modeling technique to frame, understand, and discuss complex issues and problems. So here you can see a causal loop diagram, a really simple one, the one we always use on classes to start giving classes about system dynamics. So the thing about system dynamics, it helps us to understand how a small change in one variable can affect the whole complex system or the whole complex systems that we are dealing here in the project. So for example, if we add a policy on the energy module, we can access the impacts of these policies in the water, food, and socioeconomic modules. So it's a really good methodology to assess policy implementation. Next slide, please. So here is a causal loop diagram, a really simple one, just to explain how the four modules are being connected. So you can see the demography and economic module in the middle. So we need demography and economy to see how energy demands will affect the energy module, how the food demand will affect the food module, and water demand affecting the water module. How we need energy for water, we need energy for food, we need water for energy, we need water for food, and for food also we need land to deploy energy policies, and we need land we need water to irrigate the crops. So this is a basic causal loop diagram. The model will try to replicate those dynamics, and we are trying to access how policies in each one of these models will affect the other three. So now I'm gonna explain a bit about the models. I'll try to be quick. So the water model, the key features, as Tsitsi was asking before, are water availability, surface and groundwater, demand by sector for water for agriculture, for industry, domestic water, and the water quality. So some interconnections between the modules, water for food. So we aim to see the impact of irrigation on water availability. With energy, the water demand for hydropower and thermal power generation, and socioeconomic, the population growth and urbanization increase water demand. The data needs, this is a thing we're gonna speak more about it later. So we need data on water resource availability, data on precipitation, runoff, groundwater resources, water quality, and water demand. Next slide, please. So about the energy module, the key features are energy technologies for electricity production, renewable and non-renewable, because we know that some cases of study like South Africa, they rely a lot on coal, energy demand by sector, greenhouse gas emissions, and electricity generation. So some interconnection between modules. With the food module, energy consumption for food production and processing, land requirements for energy such as solar generation, interconnections with water availability for hydropower generation, and the energy intensities for treatment and pumping. And socioeconomic, the economic growth and population growth driving the energy demand. So some data we need to feed the module are detailed assessment of solar, wind, hydropower, and biomass potentials, energy balances, grid extensions, and energy demand. Next, please. The food module key features are land uses, crop yields and food production, CO2 emissions and GHG balance, food demands and diets. Some interconnection, as were mentioned before, with the water module, availability and quality of water for irrigation. With the energy module, the agriculture sector relies heavily on energy for various processes, impacting overall demand, and with the socioeconomic model, full demand driven by population growth and economic growth. Some data needs are information on crop yields, livestock production, fishery, dietary patterns, and land uses. And last but not least, the socioeconomic model. Some key features we are trying to develop here are population growth and migration, GDP, employment, investment, and consumption. Some interconnections, they are more based on the demands, but with the food, we can see dietary shifts and consumption patterns impacting on food demand. On the energy model, we increase the energy demand due to economic development, and with the water module, population and economic growth driving water demand. So some data we are needing here are population growth data, migration data, urbanization rates, economic activities, GDP, resources demand, and more data from some macroeconomics variables. Next slide, please. So last, in the project, we are dealing with a lot of data. So we have plenty of data challenges. I don't know if our partners from the other projects are facing the same problems, but I think this is a good place to talk about it because we have some challenges. So data scarcity, it's a big challenge. In ONEPlanET, we are working on 3 basic level case of studies. So it's hard for us to get that data from national level and to downscale it to the basic level. It's a big challenge. Data quality, it's another challenge. We have issues with data accuracy, consistency, and comparability across different sources. Downscaling complexities, as I mentioned before, it's another big problem. Fortunately, Cartif members, our partners, they are planning to do a downscaling method. Data harmonization is a big issue also. From the socioeconomic side, I can tell you, we are getting data from GDP and from the economic part, and each country has a different currency and a different method to gather this data. So we have to all translate it to dollar, to the same year, to constant or current. So this is a big issue. And collaboration and access to this data, it's another big issue because, as Serena was mentioning before, we have one case of study, the Songwe River. It's a transboundary case of study. So we don't know if we get data from Tanzania, from Malawi, how we can downscale it and how we can use the data from both countries to this case of study. So these are some main challenges we are facing, and we hope with this discussion we can go forward on it. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pedro. So we have seen that in ONEPlanET, there are some challenges for data. And I hope there are some measures on how you can solve these challenges. Then our next speaker is Nicola from the Image Project. Over to you, Nicola.
Okay, thank you very much. I also prepared a few slides, one for each of the models so that we don't use that much time. But before I start, maybe, can you go just next slide? Maybe a comment on the data. I mean, we are trying to, discuss about the energy data and compare them. But when you look at the GDP, for instance, and you compare it between different, these international organizations, they have different numbers, in GDP comparison for the same year. So for every country, so it's kind of finding the perfect, balance between everything. And I mean, in the end, you have to say, okay, I'm going with this and hope for the best that you're as close as possible to the real situation. Because it makes a lot of difference. If you incorporate, GDP growth for 7%, which is the average estimate for the African continent, and it really depends on the starting numbers that you use and what will you get in 2030, 2040, and it also then depends on the energy demand, on production and everything. Back to the toolbox development. So the idea is that we are focusing a project just on the how to say, energy model tools. But also these models need to have the economic, social, environmental data included inside, so that we don't, so that we have a more, how to say, sustainable development of energy systems across the African continent, so that in the end we'll have this successful transition of having, you know, zero CO2 emissions at the end somewhere in the future. Next slide, please. The models we have basically we have 5 models, and you could roughly divide them in 2 groups. So we have models which are focusing on electrical grid, and models which are more focused on the energy system as a whole. So the first model, which is named hosting capacity, which is developed by Synergies, it's focused actually on increasing the flexibility of the electricity grid network and the optimization. It's trying to find where are the issues in an electrical grid and which are the options of how to increase it, and where is additional flexibility so you can add additional energy sources at some location. Next one. This one optimal storage placement tool is similar, but it's more focused on finding where are the issues and how can these issues be repaired in the network by using the different storage system, but mostly it's focused on modeling of battery storage in certain points of the electrical grid. Next one, Power Sibri from Artelis. This one is also focused on the grid, and it finds the grid flexibility solution and also finds the perfect location, optimizes the network so that it shows the perfect locations for the battery storage. So the next one, Sepia, this one is more focused on the whole energy system, as it takes into account the long-term energy planning. I don't know, for 2050 with 5-year steps. It's based on the yearly data. It's done as a simulation model, but also it can include some Python features which can optimize the system. It includes also different economic sectors, except for energy, so water, agriculture, transport, industry, and economic. And the idea is actually that you input certain policy in and then try to figure out the effect of this policy on the future energy system in 2050 and so on. And next one, the last one, it's called Green Advice. This is also focused on the energy system as itself, but not on national level as the last one, but more on the local level. Where the idea is that you provide an optimal energy supply solution for a certain geographic location. So either a certain household, street, city, or more. The optimization is done, again, the input data are done on an hourly basis, and also it needs data for at least 1 year. The idea of the last one is just to mention is that we make it, more like an app, so that by a few simple input data, the citizens and, general public can get some kind of rough estimation of what will happen in the future. And thank you. This is it.
Thank you very much, Nicola. For the image, you're only working on the energy.
Yes, that's the main focus of the project. So for us, the focus is on providing the grid stability, but also trying to, simulate and optimize the future energy system, focused on the production but also on the demand side, because we can see that the demand planning is often an issue, because I look at some old planning models for the EU before 20, 30 years, and they overestimated the future demand, by doubling or tripling it by now. And this actually didn't happen because in the last 20, 30 years, we invested a lot in energy efficiency and also in optimization of the system. So once you optimize the systems, you reduce the demand with every improvement and the process you do.
Oh, okay. So your demand is based on the users. What other features do you consider when you're developing your models for energy? Like which users, like which sectors are you considering for?
I mean, usually the main drivers of the demand are population and economic development or GDP. So current levels of GDP and approximations of future levels of GDP.
So the sectors like agriculture, are you also including them in your models?
For instance, in SEPI model, they are included, but in others, no, not.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Pacific.
Yes,
Thank you. Over to you.
thank you so much. Unfortunately, I was not able to send the slides before, but I don't know if I'm still able to share because I have some slides. Otherwise, maybe I can just I don't know. Will it be possible to try to share? I don't know if people in the room will be able to see.
Is it possible to see?
I don't know if you are able to see my screen.
Just 1 second. Yes, yes, you can.
Thank you so much. And yes, I have within the Integrate project, we have too much modeling work ongoing, too much tools, too much models that have been developed. That is why I'll try to be very fast. Fortunately, Marina presented already some of the work. We have 16 members in Reintegrate. All the 8 AU members, partners are doing modeling, each one for its country, from Tunisia, Senegal, DRC, Zambia, Ethiopia, Kenya, South Africa, and even some partners in the Europe, above supporting the modeling activity in the EU countries. They are also working on regional modeling. So within Reintegrate, we are doing both national models, regional models, and even some countries are doing subnationals modeling countries with a lot of nodes. So as we can see from the work packages, if I can go quickly, the main 2 work packages are modeling activity, national and regionals, that are supported with the 2 other work packages, that is formalizing partnership, because for us, stakeholders engagement is very important within our process, and the development of coherent compatible policies, because since at the end of the modeling is to have some policy brief, we need to engage stakeholders from the beginning, even from the scenario definitions, because they are, most of the time it's the scenarios that leads to policy formulations. And of course, we have the management and dissemination workshop work packages, but the modeling is the main activities. And the main keywords for Reintegrate is, of course, rethinking the modeling approach and find the model that fits to the local context, because we found out the main challenge that we realized that some models are not really addressing some local issues. Many people mentioned some data availability or some demand projection. So we see how we are trying to deal with those challenges within Reintegrate. Of course, in different countries have different approaches to their local context. So as I was mentioning, we have 8 national cases of all 8 African countries, and we have some regional model, EU, and some role of hydrogen between, of course, again, the European Union and the African Union regions. So going very fast, Marina gave an overview here, but at the beginning, this was the background of the modeling. In different countries, there was already some existing work, and we are building the model based on this existing model that existed in those countries. And on the regional side, we have TMC and OSEMBE, that is from the European Union model, and TEMBA for the African Union model. So we had this existing model as the ground, and now we try to improve them and to make them more realistic to address the local context. I'll go first because Maria presented this slide. But for example, from here, now we are at this stage, for example, for the African Union, where Ethiopia decided to continue with onset and osmosis. UCT, for example, is adding some regional resolution on their SATIM GE. Initially, it was only one node, single node, but now they're trying to add multiple sub-regions. In Tunisia, they are trying to add to analyze the impact of hydrogen and the autonomization of energy production. We're also considering this regional interconnection between the European Union and other countries. For DRC, because I'm from DRC, I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. We are mostly working with osmosis, and the idea of the reintegrate project is at the end of the project, all the models should be open source and all the data should be open. So the model that are not yet fully open source, we are expecting to make them open source by the end of the project. So I'll continue maybe to highlight the modeling work within Reintegrate with the case study of DRC, and of course commenting on what is going on in other countries, because the main we are following the same approach. Because at the beginning, each country has the modeling roadmap that has been discussed with the stakeholders, because from the beginning, for example, the stakeholder that we had in DRC, from this modeling roadmap, we found out that at the end, instead of going, for example, for CLAUS that stands for Climate, Land, Energy, and Water Nexus in DRC, it was more meaningful. That was the result of the stakeholders workshop that we had last month. We realized that it was more meaningful, instead of going to this closed model for DRC, rather to focus on a multi-regional model, because being a big country by size, landscape, different sub-regions of the country have different reality, different resources, and it was found to be more meaningful to the country to go rather for the multi-regional model than going towards a closed model for now. So, for the case of DRC, we investigate some main challenges. One of the big challenges, of course, the lack of energy access to a big share of the population, and lack of strategic planning. It is unfortunate, but in DRC, the last electricity master plan, it was in 1988. So actually, we are facing a lot of challenge on energy modeling. And of course, we have these ambivalent goals with the huge potential in renewable resources. The country also is trying to push towards fossil fuel exploration. So we are in this context, we are trying to see if what could be the right direction in the energy development, if the current policies are really making sense, if are profitable both on the climate or on the economical side. So I will present you some results briefly. And of course, following from this study from WRI, the main challenge in the many African countries are, of course, the electrification, electrification access, and this is many due to, for example, the case of Kenya, among the 100% of the clients connect to the grid, 80% come from the residential area, while for the revenue, 50% come from the 13% that come from the industry and commercial. So many investors don't find interest in investing, for example, in a rural area where they will not gain a lot of income. So this is a real challenge that many African countries are facing. And the idea also here, because one of the main objectives of the project is to promote the access to electricity and renewable energy technologies implementation, is to define what kind of strategy can be implemented, what kind of scenario can be designed to push investors to go towards those rural areas where there are less income or less accountable customers. How could be the role of productive use of energy in those areas? So those kind of scenarios are jointly defined and elaborated with the stakeholders engagement. So maybe go fast on the power sector of DRC so that I can have time to discuss the results. We are using osmosis for the case of DRC because we are dealing with energy planning on the long term, and it can, for the geography, it can have both from global to subnational level, and it's a technology-rich bottom-up approach using an optimization solver. And the reference energy systems come from of course, the resources until to the final use of the energy. And this first study was only conducted on the power sector, while the idea is to go towards the whole energy systems. That is for the case of DRC. And regarding the demand projection, we realized that the best way of projecting the demand, because this is one of the big challenge that many modelers are facing, the data on the model, especially on the demand side, because many of these data are aggregated, and while to have a more, let's say, realistic model, we need to have high granularity on the modeling side, both on the sectors that are modeled and even their energy profile. And but the big issue of this bottom-up demand modeling and projection is to find the repartition keys of how to disaggregate the aggregated data that can be found on the energy balances and other statistics institutions. So, but for DRC, for example, just giving a point, we were able to have among our stakeholders, some stakeholders who have done already some, let's say, survey-based study to see, to have the profile of the energy situation in the residential area and commercial area. And we are agreeing with our stakeholders to have this data sharing partnership. And so that will be one of the solutions for us to overcome this issue of disaggregating the energy balance, so that we are able to capture very well the energy situation, especially because some econometric projections that rely only on the GDP and the population growth sometimes are not able to capture some aspects of the economy, such as the informal sectors in some remote area where the economy is more informal. They are not using any bank systems and just sometimes exchanging goods without using currencies. It means that the demand is there, but cannot be captured only by the GDP projection or the actual ways of that are currently used in the demand projection in many models. But of course, because we didn't have this high level, let's say, yes.
Oh, yeah, finishing, just wind up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll maybe go past to some results and comment them.
Yeah, I think the results, just give us the summary of like, what are the data features? I think you've explained them in your previous slides. So
Yeah.
maybe just give a conclusion and wind up. Then for the results, maybe we can share them later on.
Yeah, the conclusion is, for example, among the three preliminary scenarios that we analyzed, the business as usual, the actual policies, the optimal solution, unconstrained scenario, and the green future, we can see here from the installed capacity that the business as usual is investing more in fossil fuels, while the green future and other are using more biomass. But the main maybe information could come here from the emission and cost implication. First, for the costs, the business as usual is more expensive than the unconstrained scenario. So the first implication means that the current policies are not economical, and neither they are not climate friendly, because the unconstrained scenario in the middle are emitting less than here in yellow, are emitting less than the business as usual. And the models so far in DRC are not considering more hydro, while the trend in DRC is just investing more in hydro, but the models say so that the results show that biomass could be more cheaper than hydro. So maybe to the conclusion, we saw that the most available resources are not necessarily the cheapest, and the cheapest solution are not necessarily climate compatible, and it's possible to reconsider the prioritizing investment in hydropower, for example, for DRC, especially since it's only located in one place. Yeah, I think I will conclude by here, and maybe give some time for more to answer to some questions, if there are any.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Our last presenter is Eunice from the EPIC Africa. Can you just maybe summarize which modules?
Yes. Hello. Hello, Jennifer. Jennifer. Thank you for not Jennifer, for the introduction. I'll be quite quick. I'll be relatively quick. Just let me just share my presentation. Some of the models, well, at least osmosis has already been mentioned. So let's just it is here. And I'll be short. So, and also Frank has already presented some of the reasoning behind the modeling approach that we are following in EPIC Africa. So in EPIC, can you see the presentation or the presenter's view?
Presenter view, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So in EPIC Africa, we have two work packages that focus on modeling, which is WP4, that has to do with the development of long-term WEF models. And then work package 5 that has to do with the development of operational WEF models. And these two work packages work very closely in model development, since there has to be consistency between the models, and they need to be integrated so to provide the relevant messages that we're looking for. In addition, of course, we are not just looking at the results, but also the process itself of conceptualization and improving the models that we are using and the software that is being developed, and always having in mind the end users. So we focus on using open source tools so that they will facilitate the uptake and ownership of these tools when the project is ongoing, and especially after it's finished. And this is then enabled by their network and the stakeholders that are being engaged. Some of them, but Carlos will have the opportunity to discuss more about stakeholders in the project. So for the models that are developed in these two work packages, 4 and 5, in itself, the work packages and the modelers collect data, but part of this data also comes from another work package, which has to do with climate services and data infrastructure. And one of the first efforts of this work package was to identify data that would be needed from each one of the nexus sectors of the nexus, and we are considering the climate, land, energy, and water nexus. So we mapped all potential data that would be needed for model development, and the work package 3 then focused on retrieving this data. And I can share very quickly. Let me know if you can see. Not this. Wait. Let me share differently. Otherwise, it's a bit. Yeah. I wanted to show this, but I didn't want. Here. Sorry. You share, and I want to share this. So one of the efforts that we did on work package 3 that had to do with mapping the data sources was really to then try to understand what data would be needed to develop these models that covered these many sectors. So this is just an overview. So we have in green is all data that is needed for the land sector. Then we have data that is for the water sector and energy. I'll explain this in the next slide, but just for you to see that there was some quite extensive work to understand what data will be available. For example, in this case, we're seeing crops. And then at what level this was available, if it was regional, at what type of temporal and spatial resolution, and in what formats, if it was available or not, if it was accessible or not. So if we knew that it existed, can we access this data? And then if it was from a publicly available source or from national sources, and how open these sources were. So this was some of the work that was done by work package 3, and this data is all compiled. And yes, so there's lots of data that is being sourced. We also have several challenges related to data, and we share the challenges that were mentioned before. But one thing that we consider that is key is to document all the data, obviously, that is used, being very clear of the limitations, and focus on explaining how this data is used in the models, and so that end users can then manipulate it and update data when is relevant. But of course, there are lots of shortcomings related to what type of insights we can derive, but we are still working in this process. So one of the key, the main model used in work package 4 is osmosis. So Pacific has explained a little bit before. So osmosis is an open source least cost linear optimization model. It follows a bottom-up approach, and it was traditionally used and it was initially developed for energy systems modeling, but it's expanded in EPIC Africa. It's also used to cover the climate, land, energy, and water systems. So here we have a very simple representation of how we represent models in osmosis for different systems. So from the left, you have resources, and then in the middle, you have technologies that convert these resources into different energy carriers that then meet final demands for the different sectors. So that's what we use. Of course, in terms of data, we will need data related to costs, because it's a cost-driven model of all of these different stages. And of course, the level detail of this data will depend on the level of representation of the model, if it's very detailed or if it's more aggregated. But yes, of course, we need data related to the technologies that exist. In this case, for land, we need to understand land covers, yields, water requirements, precipitation, water balances, and so on. For water resources, we need to know what water is available, how it is consumed, what type of technologies, what are the levels of access, if the water is treated or not. And of course, from the energy, we need information about fuels, the reserves, if they are imported or not, technologies that convert these fuels, what type of technologies, and so on. So I think we are all very familiar with this type of approach. In terms of model development, since we cannot dive deep into very specific modeling from the start, in WP4, the focus was developing national models that cover different aspects, initially energy, and then incorporating the other nexus systems, includes. And then from these national models, we then go to detailed energy models where it's needed, detailed country level models, and then detailed basin level models. So we are following a bit this structure. Of course, the different case studies that we are investigating have different challenges, as Frank shared. So this means that in some cases we might focus on the pairing of certain models to provide to arrive at certain insights. In others, it might be more an integrated model from which we'll derive the insights. So we are still also in that phase of while developing the models, also understanding which ones provide answers to some of the questions that are arising. In terms of operational models, in Work Package 5, we will be using dispatch models. It's planned to use Dispaset for the Volta Basin and Ghana, also paired with stochastic modeling to assess the dispatchable capacity for hydropower or potential for hydropower in combination with variable renewable energies such as solar and wind. We've been developing a software, optimization software for the identification of potential sites for pumped hydro energy storage in both basins. And also we are also investigating the potential for implementing floating solar PV in reservoirs. This is already done in Bui, in the Bui Dam in Ghana. And you can see here to the left. So the reservoirs that are part of this system are producing, of course, not as much as the hydro, but they are producing quite important. They have an important contribution to the energy produced by this system. And of course, we have to think that when if solar is available to be produced, and we do not need to dispatch hydro, and so of course we are looking into optimizing these systems. In the case, and these are some results for pumped hydro storage identification of potential of pumped hydro storage sites in Kenya, and these sites are identified here on the right, mostly in pink. In blue you have water bodies, and then in pink you have sites that were identified based on a series of conditions, such as to do with topography, with water availability, with land cover, proximity to existing grid lines, proximity to roads, and so on. So these are some sites that could be explored. And yes, so these are some, of course, the dispatch in both models, we're investigating how we can have geographical dimension linked to this analysis. Of course, related to the variable renewable energy sources and the pumped hydro storage identification of sites, we are using geographical analysis or geographic systems analysis, but and we're trying to nail down the long-term models to to provide insights at smaller geographical scales as well. But this process is ongoing. Just to finalize, one thing that we're discussing, apart from the independent development of these models, they are actually not independently developed because there's lots of discussion going on about how the structures are, what structures are emerging and being implemented, and how they link to the different types of models that we are developing. So we're discussing on how to link long-term models such as osmosis and onset. Onset is it's a model that assesses the grid extension or the use of different energy solutions to meet electricity demands, such as standalone grid or diesel or wind or mini grid, options. And this is also paired with osmosis in some of the cases, especially for Burkina, that is the initial plan. So we are looking in a way to link these different long-term models, but also link them with the dispatch models that are being developed. And we are assessing what type of inputs and outputs we get from these models and in which order these should be linked. So this is just a very quick overview. Of course, it's under discussion, it's not finalized, so just for you to have in mind. But yes, so that I finish here my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eunice, for the precise presentation about the EPIC Africa model project. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you,
we,
Jennifer.
yeah, this second section. So now, so I just remind to the attendees that if you may have any questions, for those connected online, you can have them on the chat. So we are going to have around 10 minutes break. So we'll be back at 11:30, 11:35, sorry. And we will continue with the next presentation, which won't have any PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. See you in 10 minutes. Okay, so I hope that, so we are starting again. I hope that, for online can, hear me well. So we are starting, so in 1 minute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Okay, is it okay?
I will just do some little technical testing. Okay. Can we start? Is it okay? For technical just let's see. Okay, thank you. Okay, good. So we can actually continue our event, starting with the second panel discussion. This time we will be discussing about energy transition in Africa. So my question for the panel, so for the two speakers here, but also you and other one connected, are so during the on the presentation that we have heard till now, we've been discussing a lot about how policies are also influencing and are impacting our projects, because indeed if we analyze the scenarios of the case studies, policies are a huge driver. So my question is, in general, how is your project supporting the energy transition in Africa? Also looking maybe at the agenda, African agenda for 2063, or other policy standards regulation. And if, let's say, in your project, the tools or any technological innovation that you are deploying in your projects are anyhow supporting the energy transition. So if you can tell us a bit more about this concrete support. So I will just maybe start with you, because we are here in the room.
It's okay.
Any of you would like to kick off?
Shall I start? You want to
Yeah,
start,
you can start because I spoke during the last two.
Okay.
Yes.
So thank you, Serena. I want to start from a general consideration about the interaction of models and policies, because I think that this is a key point then to understand the role that innovation in terms of let's say technical innovations might have in this transition, and how we can help in these projects these innovations to emerge. So what I saw in the presentation of EPIC Africa is that a step after the delivery of the models is the creation of transition arena for model policy interaction, which is a typical approach to say, okay, I've been modeling, and then I start a dialogue with stakeholders, and I identify the way the models can influence policies. Of course, all we want policies that are data-driven, that are science-driven, so this is a good step. But I want to go back to the consideration of this famous statistician of the 70s, George Box, who said that all models are wrong and some models could be useful. So the point is, how can we build models that are useful for making good policies, and how we can incorporate in models things, including technologies and innovations that might be useful for this transition, because otherwise we will not go into a transition. We might even, with models, support the status quo conservation. So there is an issue in terms of how the models are built and how sensitive the models are to, let's say, light fluctuations and perturbations which might come from technologies. And this is the key point we are trying to develop in ONEPlanET, because the idea is that, okay, we are modeling. There is a component that is the socio-economic environment, but the socio-economic environment is so complex that if we don't unpack the socio-economic component and try to understand what is in this space that should be considered in modeling, including again technologies, probably we are serving, even the status quo conservation. So if we go to the point, we might discover, and this was discussed by some presentations, including our internal discussion in ONEPlanET, that one key dimension of the transition of the energy system in Africa. For example, just to make an example of, I mean, the way we should think, is the way people are cooking. So we talk a lot about grids and the way, you know, we have to extend infrastructures and the way we have to develop a system which is in continuity to our way of thinking, that, you know, we have the power plants and we have to bring electricity to people. But then we discover that more than 900 million people in Africa are cooking in a wrong way. And we had a very nice discussion in a conversation with Strathmore University on which is the barrier to change the way people are cooking. And the barrier is, one of the barriers is that people, they like the smoke taste. So you understand that there is something that is totally out of our picture. That is the way people are cooking, and they are used to cook with wood, and they like the output of this cooking process. So when we talk about innovations and technologies, we should find a way to build models that are telling us the right thing to do, not to do the usual thing in a right way, but trying to find the things that we should make, and this should be the right things. So which innovation should we throw into the process? The way we cook, the way people are cooking. So shall we talk about cooking with solar energy generated by PV panels? Okay, that means that you should have local generation, so you should have then the microgrids, and you should have this infrastructure, which is different from distribution from a centralized system, to let people close the loop and keep the way they are cooking, which is locally harvesting wood. Instead of harvesting wood, they might harvest solar energy. But this is a way you can regenerate a process in the society because you have a wide systemic view. Just to close this first, because I think it would be better to have some kind of interaction. Maybe we have to solve the problem of the taste. So that in this, systemic view, we should find the way we are keeping in the process of PV cooking the food, something that is, in continuity with the cultural models that people have. Otherwise, this transition will not happen. I could make other examples in, how you manage water, how you filter water, how you clean it, the clash of in other levels of mining for making, extracting minerals for PV, and you are polluting the water around, so you are serving the energy system, but on the other side, you are affecting the water system. I think that most of this broad picture is still out of our models. And this is technology driven, is culture driven, is behavior driven. So in order to find the right innovations, I think we should start thinking about the way we can incorporate in a broader modeling approach of this and the way we are trying to serve in ONEPlanET. On the other side, we have to see what is brewing, in the pot of innovation. So you have this system of universities, research, open innovation, open publication, and it's a lot. And if you don't scout what is useful and you don't understand what you want, you will have a lot of stuff there brewing, and you will have the business as usual here. So making the bridge between the innovation niches, as we say, and the transitional systems is a key job that somebody should do, and this is what we are trying to approach in ONEPlanET.
Yes. Any other speakers also from the one connected remotely, they want to jump in or comment?
Yeah, maybe just to add that, yes. I agree that cooking with wood sometimes tastes better. Grill, electric one, and the wood one, it's not the same again. The wood always.
I've been living in Cyprus for 5 years, and whenever you have let's say country holiday, it's just one cloud of smoke because everybody goes back to the tradition and cooks with wood. Yeah. It's an issue. Yeah, and in Africa, it's a giant systemic issue.
Yeah, but I'm not sure also that the PV cooking is the right solution, because if you look at the price of the whole system that you need to install to get it with the induction process and the grid and the battery you need to have. I'm not sure that this is the right way to go. Maybe, I don't know. But again, when you look at the prices of this product, what happened in the last, I don't know, 20 years with the reduction, it's a question of, optimization. That's why the models are also important. When we construct some model, we need to adapt it over time. We need to, take all the innovation which happens into it and also adjust it for the prices, because otherwise we are not keeping the loop correct. And I mean, we can also see this on the global, modeling with PVs, with International Energy Agency, which is constantly underestimating the PV installation and production every year because they are not adjusting the model focusing in the right way. So,
but maybe going a bit more into the point of the policy. So how, let's say, how the modeling or any development that you're doing in the project, how does it fit with the policy roadmap for Africa within the Agenda 2063? Do you see anything to comment about it, on how you can contribute on policy landscape, or if you see any barriers between some policy goals right now with development or some aspects of your project, or enablers as well?
Maybe to just I don't from my understanding of the Agenda 2063, it's not that focused on energy, and in a way, as you say, you look at energy transition maybe in Europe, so that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to have a development which is sustainable, make it as sustainable as possible with the given circumstances. So I would say that our models that we are developing are complementing, because they are trying to find the cost optimal, environmental optimal solutions to help to bring this development in how to say, to kind of speed it up in the end. So I would say that they are complementary in that way.
Let me make a consideration. I was very impressed while reading a recent paper which was published in Science in August. And it's about the evaluation of decarbonization policies in the last 20 years. They've been analyzing, it's a massive, exceptional work, 1,500 policies. For the ones who didn't see the paper, you know how many policies have been effective. So they've been really impacting decarbonization and reducing in a significant way the amount of emissions. 63 out of 1,500. So that means around 4%. That's the point. I mean, we are not doing the right things. We are doing something. And even if you have, and I like, that in Africa you have this broad umbrella 2063, because it's stating principles on a long term. So this is the best way to set up a high level, very high level policies in a multi-level approach. Because you say, okay, I want development, you have to define what you mean with development, and I want that this development should be sustainable, so it should be within the planetary boundaries, let's say. Okay, then you can build the tides to get there on the different levels. And our role in setting up models and eventually in identifying innovations is that we have to try to build something that is addressing that goal in the real world and in real terms. So if you have 63 policies that are successful after 20 years out of 1,500, that means there is a mistake. If you go into the paper, the key element of these policies that are working is that they are multi-sectoral and they are multi-drivers. So, for example, you are tuning the price. In that case, for example, is electric cars, but it might be PV booking. You are tuning the price while you are creating the infrastructure. So you are making different things to address, and so you remove more than one barrier, and you adapt to the wealth of the country and to the socio-cultural conditions, the policies. So you don't throw the policies on the ground and say, okay, this is nice, it will work, but you try to adjust. So the best policies that are working in low income countries are the ones acting on prices. They are not the systemic policies acting, you know, on large infrastructures or on the let's say offer side. They are working on the demand side, saying, guys, if you want to buy this, you will pay 30% and 70% will be subsidies. If you shift subsidies from fossil fuels to this, it's done. Because most of the countries we are talking about, they are still heavily subsidizing fossil fuels. So it's not a matter of where we find the money. The money is there. It's a matter of deciding where we want to go.
I mean, just in Europe with the energy prices in the last year, we spend every year more money than we spent in the last 12 years, 20 years on the renewables we spend on the fossil fuels. So it's.
Okay, now maybe the speaker can delle Monte, so Marina from Reintegrate or Professor Enrico Fuso for Epic Africa. If you want to jump in, maybe comment on this.
I can start maybe. I really like the points that were raised before, and in particular in finance, because it's also one of the aspects that we are focusing on. Yes, the money are there. How to spend them, that's what is the most challenging task. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to contribute to the probably higher level aspirations of 2063 agenda, which is the self-sufficiency. And it's not only self-sufficiency in terms of resources and better energy systems, but it's also, as Nicola mentioned, it's innovation. So one of the aspirational targets is more inclusive continent that is more prosperous, and the well-being for through better education and better innovation and better access to technologies as well. So it's not only in our aspiration, it's not only the transfer of knowledge in a traditional sense from the north to the south, but it's also building this capacity on the ground and inspiring those communities that are there to be able to build up on the expertise that exists. And then one of the ways we're doing it is assessing the policies that exist, looking at how the outcomes of different low carbon development transformations can be modeled, and what does it mean for socioeconomic development in particular. And it's directly feeds into the NDC processes as well for all the countries that we're looking at. And then it's a cross-country comparison that is important as well, because one of the aspirations is to build a continent that is connected, and the collaboration is there, and it does contribute to prosperity and well-being after all as well. So it's to bring it kind of to higher level aspirations as well. And then as has been mentioned, that is a good way of planning. You have to set these aspirational goals, but then when we look at the energy systems and energy planning, we have to be more realistic and see what actually works on the ground and what matters. And so this is the approach that we take in trying to understand what are the impacts of those policies that already exist. And then what do the models tell us what doesn't work and what should actually work, sort of to simplify the discussion as well. And then, of course, it's a contribution to the SDGs and whatever is going to come after the SDGs as well. And then we do have a focus on particular technologies if we think in terms of innovation, and that would be hydrogen. What is the role of hydrogen in the future for both continents? And then coherency of policies and importance of trade in the future as well. So it's a socioeconomic. So it's not only the energy and better energy systems and more renewable energy systems, but it's also the socioeconomic aspects of this kind of development. So what is needed and what matters, and what are the aspirations from those policymakers and decision makers on the ground.
Definitely. Thank you very much, because indeed policies will need to be implemented at a local level, so they need to fit a certain social economic landscape, otherwise they will not work. So I do not see Professor Erika Fosu connected, so we'll ask the other people from Epic Africa. So Frank, or maybe Carlos, if you want to comment, since we're here in the room, if you want to.
Frank, I can go if you want. If I don't hear anything, I guess that's it. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. No, maybe since no, I agree with one of the first comments from Fabio in terms of the importance of involving policy and policy stakeholders at early stages of the policy making process. In the end, what we are doing as tools, the tools are themselves just a tool. Is for policy. I mean, it's data-driven, policy-based, and that's what we are hoping to achieve, right? I mean, we are just giving outputs based on their inputs. Hopefully, we have our challenges on data as always, but we just hope that those will transform in effective policies. But I believe there are some tools existing more suited for policy evaluation. There are others, like we do is mostly on planning. We just can plan ahead. But for us, it was also very important. I think here maybe a clarification. My colleague talked before about transition spaces and transition arenas. We changed names. For us, it was very clear, was very important, and maybe I'm jumping a bit ahead of the panel, to follow a different logic when it comes to involvement of stakeholders. It's clear we have two working packages dealing with the stakeholders. The first one follows the traditional logic of business as usual stakeholders. We all know them. You go to countries, people of ministries. It's important to involve them, but again, as Fabio said, normally they just come too late into the process, especially on this type of projects. And here's where the transition spaces, we wanted to attract a different type of people. And we follow a different representative logic where while we still try to capture the quadruple helix type of stakeholders, we wanted to have people that they do not represent their organizations, but they represent themselves. Because for us, it was important to handpick people which are, like say, front runners, visionaries, out-of-the-box thinkers. But why? One of the reasons why is sadly for the policy making, we wanted to involve these people from the very, very early stages of the definition of the model. And okay, we all know, we already have all our models, we can do assessment, but in the end, most of us, we are working with osmosis, which already is there. And it's hard to implement new functionalities. I mean, but we want to, that's what we are doing in the end. And in that sense, for instance, these transition spaces, they are informing the modeling teams. And especially the guys working on setting up the modeling framework on what functionalities those stakeholders require to make policy decisions. So.
Thank you. I don't know if maybe in the meantime, maybe Professor Erika Fosu join, or if other colleagues want to jump in. If this is an open panel discussion, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything. Maybe not, but I think we had some really great exchanges. I would like to thank you all for your contribution. I'm just checking because maybe we received some.
Yeah, comment on this, Sarah, before we close. We go to the.
Sorry, one comment,
yes.
because I see that Professor Caputo is as attendee, so you cannot speak. So if anyone from the organizer of labs can be a panelist, so Mariam, sorry, there is one speaker that is as an attendee, so you cannot speak. So if you can, or Timothy, if you can make Eric Caputo as a panelist, so you can comment. In the meantime, please.
Yeah, just a comment on the loop. The idea of picking people that are more representative of some kind of breakthrough vision. I think that the key point is to establish a future design arena, let's say, where then you work on the transitions. So it's the kind of future you want, and then how models and the dialogue in the transitional spaces are serving that future. And we have been losing a little bit, I think, in general, this work on future. If we see, I mean, the way we are dealing with future in Europe in the last years, it's a reactive approach, is not more, let's say, a proactive approach in designing future. I think that this is an issue because you need hook with future, and then you are serving that vision. If you miss that, you start having a loop, and you don't get out of the loop.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because in Europe, I believe we are just extinguishing fires that we keep, going up, and we are not going anywhere. We are just stuck in this reactive approach.
And maybe just to react in that sense, it was on the presentation from my colleague Frank. And if you can put it very quickly, but it was one of the first ones. I think we started with very, let's say, an envisioning exercise where basically we just gave A3 or A2 paper, like the big ones, and people really had to draw their future for their web project in this case, for the web in Ghana, in the Tana River in Kenya, and that exercise was very well welcomed by the stakeholders, by the transition space participants, where they could really envision how they foresee, and of course, the level of technological innovation sometimes go wild, and then people start, but there is value on that. There is imagination, there is creativity. And of course, the challenge there is how to transform those visions into quantifiable model inputs or outputs. But okay, that's the challenge.
Yes. Thank you. Have we solved the issue with
should be solved.
Professor Enrico Porto? I still see him as an attendee. So,
Can you tell me the name again, please?
Eric, yes. Porto is among the attendees.
He raised his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So on our side, we are trying to form the EPIC Africa Research Network, where we bring in together modelists from various institutions across Ghana, Burkina Faso. Within the Volta Basin, we have Benin, we have Togo, we have Cote d'Ivoire, and then also the Tana Basin. We've been able to establish this EPIC Africa Research Network. A lot of young talents have been brought on board, and other institutions like the Water Research Institute of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We have people from the International Water Management Institute, and then other institutions that are running WASCAL programs in Ghana. We've been able to bring them on board. We have research network meetings. And then also we have been able to introduce them to the CLUES model, which we believe is very important for this water, energy, food, and exhaust. So we have trained, We have trained a number of our staff on the CLUES model. They went for the training of trainers. And then following that, we set up a summer school that brought together about 30 participants on the CLUES model. And this has become very fascinating. We're trying to even incorporate that in our master's program and our PhD program. And the interest level for the CLUES model is very high. So we, next week even, we are meeting the CCG to be able to add on a few other modeling tools. And then the plan is that when we have developed the models for this Epic Africa project also, we will get the team that is developing the model from KTH to come down to train the research network, the N network, and we'll be able to take this up to the next level. And we intend to keep this Epic Africa Research Network going even after the end of the project, so that we can be able to equip ourselves with new trends of modeling in terms of addressing the water, energy, food nexus. So if you take the Epic Africa project, this is what we are contributing towards. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the meantime, I see also one question in the chat. It was referring actually to the previous panel, but I think it is something in between. So the question is from the results seen during the previous presentation from the various models so far, the hydro sources seems to be delivering more energy in Africa. Can this lead to increased investment in hydro sources? So the question is if you want to comment, and also I don't know if maybe anyone from the project has also looked at the investment, so apart from the building the models, if you have also maybe looked at if you have the investments planned for the coming years in Africa. If you want to comment, if anyone wants to comment.
I mean,
so let me come in here.
Yes.
At the Regional Center for Energy and Environmental Sustainability, we're doing some work with the Environmental Protection Agency on adaptation plans for Ghana's NDCs, and we're specifically looking at the solar pump irrigation systems. So we are influencing policy in that direction, and having worked on the policy for the upscaling of solar pump irrigation systems in Ghana, we have also developed the investment plan for the upscale, and we are working with the climate fund, and we have been able to discuss with a number of potential agents like the EcoBank and then UNESCO, UNDP. We have also discussed with FAO, possibly for them to be able to help us get about £20 million for this particular activity. Next week, we are presenting the solar pump investment plan for the high level meeting. We have almost all the chief directors for the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the chief executive of the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority coming in. And we're doing this because if you look at the Volta Basin, the ratio of agriculture in terms of their income and then also their levels of employment is very high. About 80% of the population within the Volta Basin, especially in the northern part, are all dependent on agriculture. And when they use fossil fuels for irrigation, it contributes seriously to the greenhouse gas emissions. And if you look at Ghana's greenhouse gas emissions, it's coming mainly from the use of fossil fuels and from the transportation side and agri side. So if you can reduce this and introduce a solar pump irrigation system.
Thank you.
I have two observations on this. One is, again, about the role of modeling, because in a traditional approach, not a systemic approach, the mainstream is to set up water basins. They are feeding the agriculture, and on the same time, they help in generation of energy. but this needs a stable climate. So whenever you start challenging, facing challenges from the climate instability, all the design of these systems at the high scale, large scale, is being affected, because you will have, if you have started in fluctuations, the system as you have been designing it as a huge infrastructure will not work anymore. But the investment in large infrastructure then is stabilizing the system, because you have the infrastructure and you want to use this infrastructure for the future. So there is an issue in terms of role of these large infrastructures in forcing you to have that future, because then you are locked. If you make a motorway, you want to use the motorway. If you make a basis with a dam, you want to use the basis with a dam. So you start then being framed in a way of thinking and managing the countries that is not more flexible. And this is the reason why I always say, before making large infrastructure, we have to think and think and think and model and see if it works. On the other side, whenever you have this, you have to use it in the best way in terms of sustainability. So introducing water pumping through solar is a key extension of the infrastructure. Also using floating PV, so using the basins to make solar energy, it's another key infrastructure. So you have to, whenever you have this asset, you have to play around the asset. Before doing the asset, I say, let's take our time and let's understand if this is the right time to make this kind of infrastructure.
Okay. Nothing said. Good. So I would like to really thank all the panelists. I think this was really interesting. So thank you very much. I think I'll leave the floor to Jennifer, and we will got the third and last panel about challenges and stakeholders engagement.
Yes. Just to test the speakers that are online, Francesco and Marina, we already heard, but Francesco, could you check if you're connected and if you can speak, if you unmute?
Yeah, hello, good morning to everybody. This is Francesco Roncallo.
Perfect, we can hear you very loud and clear. That's nice, thank you. So my name is Jennifer Kuckeberg. I'm the user research lead at 3 o'clock, and as Serena said, this panel will be mainly about challenges of stakeholder engagement. At the beginning, I wanted to give this a bit of a positive spin, but I think we're a bit out of time. So I would like to ask the speakers to maybe quickly also speak about your methodology a little bit, like what is your approach to stakeholder engagement? I saw that a lot of you in your presentation spoke about co-creation and trying to involve stakeholders in an early stage, but if you could also give a little bit of context to us who haven't been participating in your project, that would be really great. And if you could just point out some of the initial challenges that you face. I think it would be good to start with Francesco, because as far as I understood, Emerge is only kicking off. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what you're planning to do and how you envision your approach to the stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, sure. So good morning to everybody in another time. This is Francesco Roncallo from Engreen, and I'm today representing Emerge project. So I know that Nicola is also participating as project coordinator. So as already introduced, Emerge is looking at the creation and development of energy related tools for progressing in sustainable energy provision in the African continent. So these tools will be the core element of the project. So this will be, for this reason, co-developed during the project. So stakeholder engagement is an activity at the very center of the project itself. And we are now approaching the first year of activities. So we are, let's say, at the very early stage of engaging stakeholder, but having to deal with several activities related to co-development, we started engaging with the stakeholder. And from the very beginning, we understood that apart from what was written in the proposal, a successful strategy for engaging properly stakeholder is identifying from the very beginning categories of stakeholders and related benefit that stakeholder need to reach out, because identifying benefit is the key element for understanding how the stakeholder may be proactive and cooperative in the project activities. So how the project could provide benefit to the stakeholder means how to have engaged stakeholder. Another, let's say, findings that we found out in the preliminary activities of the project is related to how to structure the strategies for engaging with stakeholders. So we understood that from the very beginning, it's not the best approach to propose to local partners. For example, in Emerge, we have 3 use cases, Morocco, Mozambique, and Niger Basin region. So it's not appropriate to provide to local stakeholders with a strategy. But the important aspect which we are facing now and we are experiencing is to try to co-develop also internally at consortium level with a proper strategy that is not going to be only one strategy, but is going to be, in our cases, 3 different strategies. One strategy co-developed with the Moroccan partner, one strategy co-developed with the Mozambican partner, and so on. So we are going to have 3 similar strategies, but very tailored to the local context. This also because from countries to country, we are going to have several differences, but we are also going to have different participation in the same stakeholder groups. So talking about institution, private sector, public sectors, and academia, for example. So what we are doing now is we are at the stage of identifying at the best categories of stakeholders from countries to countries and try to tailor together with the local partners the engagement strategy. So for being very tailored to the local context. Now we are entering in the phase of the project that co-design activities for the successful implementation of the project is going to take place. But yeah, these are the main findings we had in these first 10 months of the project. So also having your insight about this topic is really valuable. So we are very happy to participate to this roundtable also for understanding how other projects are approaching this critical issue, but really important. So I would leave the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Francesco. I think it's also really interesting that you spoke about tailoring it like from the beginning to the different local conditions, understanding the stakeholders and having different strategies also for like different cultural settings. I think this is a really interesting approach that you've chosen there, and I think it will be quite valuable throughout the process with engagement, I think, from your side. I would just like to invite Carlos and Raquel because we have already been a bit more advanced. We have already done some workshops, and I know, of course, from ONEPlanET, we had also sometimes very simple logistical issues getting to where we have to do the workshops. So Carlos, if you want to maybe jump on how you have been doing the co-creation and what the process was like.
I mentioned it before, so I will do it briefly just now. We have 2 levels of stakeholder involvement, the more, let's say, traditional policy stakeholders, information to them, that's important, that's happening. They need to understand the tools that we are using. In the end, policymakers will be hopefully using the web tools that we are developing, or at least knowing that they exist, so they know how to tender those. The transition spaces on the other side, they say, front runner, visionaries, out of the box thinkers. We had challenges in that sense in the beginning to find those people. I mean, it's easy to say, but to find those people, that's something that we do quite a lot in our own region. We come from Belgium, from Flanders. Well, you have a very deep knowledge of who is who in the end. They are small regions. Now, when you go and you do projects, especially in our continent, or in our case, you heavily rely on the local partners, which of course proved instrumental, but still was very, very challenging to find those people, and it was almost a last-minute effort. However, saying that, I must say that it really proved extremely viable. I mean, I was even very happily surprised of the outcomes of the first transition spaces, both in Kenya and in Ghana. Because also the format, the method, the exercise, the envisioning exercise, I was saying before, like, yeah, okay, start drawing. In one of them, we even like brought like high school kids to envision Ghana 2063 with Lego, with craft, trying to build their future. And I was skeptical at the beginning, but you know, I also need to trust my team, and the result was very well welcomed by, I will say, by everyone. I dare to say. Why? I don't know. I can only guess. I think also, I think cultures they are a bit more oral, less. They are a bit more open to this communication, to these exchanges. So actually that worked out very well. Now the challenge, as I said before, yeah, okay, we have an exercise about values, about objectives. They pinpoint that this dignity is important. Okay, how do you translate that into how you make that quantified? Okay, that's what we are doing right now, and that's what we are working towards for our second transition space. I look forward to tell you the answer in a year.
This is great. I think it also ties into what you said, like having a bit more of a tangible approach to the workshops. I think like having something that people can do with their hands, because I think there's also a lot of, I mean, even I think it doesn't matter for the cultural context. I think if you sit 2 hours and you have to listen to something or you have conversation, it can be very tiring. And I think maybe Raquel, you can talk a little bit how we try to solve this in ONEPlanET in our workshops to have more exercises.
Yeah, I would like first to elaborate a little bit.
Of course.
Planet. Like I think all of the projects today are facing the same challenge of promoting energy clean green transition in Africa. I think one of the singularities of ONEPlanET is to include the Nexus approach in this decision making. For example, Fabio was commenting in the hydropower infrastructure and how it can influence and how it can be conditioned by the climate change that is we are experiencing. So this is one particular thing of our ONEPlanET project. And then following the explanation from Pedro Solano from the University of Valladolid, we are following the system dynamics modeling to model the entire system, water, energy, food, as also including the socioeconomic model. At this moment, we are working in the individual models. We are working in the water, mapping all interactions inside the model, and then we are at this moment, as we are now starting the final year of the project, the idea is that we can connect the different individual models. And we also have followed an approach to define a common replication model that can be applied to any river basin, also in Africa. So this can be like our objective and basis of the ONEPlanET project. And then in this last year, we will upgrade the model into 2 different tools. So I connect with the stakeholders. One simulation tool for policymakers, more maybe for a more level, like policymakers or scientists. And then a serious game that will target a different audience, like to raise awareness and to involve citizens or students. So we are working in the model, then we will develop 2 different tools. And then it is important to highlight that everything will be in a knowledge hub. with where the simulation tools will be there. Also, some material, webinars, and many training material we are developing so far, and it will be launched, I think, by the end, by the beginning of next year. Also, as Fabio was commenting before, we are also including a database for Nexus solutions, including technology, but also you can filter by location where it is being implemented. So I think ONEPlanET is providing a huge number of tools to be useful by African policymakers. And regarding your question about these consultation processes, from the very beginning of the project, we map all of we distribute the different target groups, and we have there some interesting list of the stakeholders. I think we started with about 100, and now we are nearly 1,000 stakeholders contacted or identified. We did also define different strategies to contact them, from consulting to informing to involving them in the co-creation. And then once we are mapping this, then we are involving them in all of the processes of the development, identifying the gaps in the baseline, involving them in the building of the models, involving them also in the design of the tools, also in the capacity building with interviews that you did. And I think I can say we have done 7 workshops there with different outputs. I think it was a good exercise, and then also interviews. So yeah.
If I may, I think it shows that you mentioned 1,000 stakeholders. I think it shows an additional challenge of our web project, which is the part that you need to deal with 3 sectors.
Yeah.
And that really multiplies all the effort by not even by 3, but by exponential.
Yeah.
Because you don't only need to map every sector, but you also need to start mapping the interlinkages between those sectors. And for instance, I guess you guys probably also did kind of a policy analysis or a governance analysis. For that was also a very big challenge. It was our first task. And we thought in the beginning it was going to be easy to map the governance of the web. Until we started doing it, and then we just did not find a single methodology, a single method that we actually felt comfortable with. We got a lot of inspiration. And in the end, we decided to develop our own methodology on how to map the web Nexus governance.
I think this is I think it's a quite common challenge. I think also when we did the workshops, when we had people from the web, so from water, energy, and food, we would also always invite people separately. But I think the nice part also of having workshops or like getting people together is that once people talk, you see that people have problems in their work to achieve things because of all these silos that they face. Yeah. So I think also the workshops in this type of projects, they give also a place for people to exchange, to kind of try to start building these bridges between these different sectors. I'm not sure how other projects have experienced this, but I also wanted to give a word to Marina, who's I think still online. And I found in the presentation that you gave, Marina, really interesting that you also work with a hybrid model, as far as I understood, for like monthly public modeling workshops. And I thought that was really an interesting approach to this type of stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, thank you for the floor and noticing our outreach effort. I would say that we do face quite a few similar issues as the rest of the project. I apologize, I had to turn off my camera. The connection is bad apparently, and of course, it's the issues on the ground, the logistical things, access, and then we have recently experienced one of our partners had to withdraw from the project, and one of the case countries didn't really work out the way we intended, but it's mostly due to the lack of resources on the ground. So sometimes, well, those things, and there's always a risk those things happen. But the overall project, the design is really largely and heavily based on the stakeholder engagement and participation. So it's of course the training, it's an educational part, it's engagement from academia community. So we hope that this is where the institutional knowledge can remain. And so it's training people who will, as somebody mentioned before, of course, often people represent themselves in this kind of activities and then they change institutions. But we believe that academia is one of those institutions that has this potential of retaining this knowledge. And then we reach out to broader publics through the workshop. So it's not just communities in EU, but it's also European communities that can contribute, and well, students, and we have a PhD course and summer schools and so on. And then we participate in a lot of activities together with other projects as well. But we do have more specific tasks in the individual work packages, and that's also it's stakeholder mapping. So I guess it's similar to what others do. It's creating a database of stakeholders that are relevant for the broader network of the modeling communities. It's a participatory dialogue and expert elicitations and interviews, and a series of workshops. Pacific had been conducting the most recent one, so he has direct experience on the ground he can add things to. And then a bit of a higher level observation that we had just recently had the discussion about what could have we done better from the beginning. And then I think it's a common issue for all of the projects of this kind. When we do apply for funding, we already know what are the toolkits that we have as a consortium. So we have a set of models, and then let's say, you know, osmosis is something that we use quite a bit, and then the EPIC Africa is using it as well. So when we plan for the activities, we already know what kind of tools we're going to use. So we already have a hammer, and then, you know, we apply it to the nail that is there. And even though in this project we are 8 different, or like more than 8 different tools and developing new ones, it's still, this is a bit of a limitation. So engaging stakeholders in the earliest stage, that would be an ideal situation, but then it's probably only possible when it's a continuation of activities that we have. So probably that's something that we could all look towards for the next stages when we're going to continue this work, hopefully. And then there is another thing as well when it comes to low engagement from the stakeholders, especially in these kind of communities where participatory approach is probably seen with the sort of less added value compared to modeling, and then people might be less engaged or willing to spend time because it's not often clear how these processes or inputs in opinions or whatever other contributions stakeholders bring, how do they actually impact decision making in the end. So that's a sort of higher level problem with, let's say, democracy maybe. And yeah, and often it's also in project planning, sometimes it's seen as something that is nice to have and not necessarily as the like driving force and the, yeah, something that is the actors' objectives and values and power in the model design that is defining the outcome. And then maybe Pacific has something to say about more specific recent experiences he had.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I don't think that I have much to add about what you just mentioned, but maybe I should just comment on what Francesco raised before, because that was the best approach that we used in DRC. Let's say while mapping and maybe reaching out to the stakeholders, we tried first to see what kind of benefits they can have through these projects, and by presenting how we can help them maybe also to achieve their goals through the activity of this project, they get somehow interested and let's say willing to know more about the project. And definitely when we met, by presenting the result and how we can continue the collaboration, that was a big achievement for the stakeholder to see how for example, the independent power producer to when they were happy, for example, to see that we are able to analyze some of their challenges. An example of, for example, the government utility company doesn't give access, for example, to the independent power producer to the infrastructure. And for example, they write that if we can try to analyze that scenario and maybe bring it to the decision maker, could bring an added value to what they are advocating. And while, for example, some government agencies also highlight that they have this human resources shortage to do this kind of analysis, and giving them this analysis, let's say, for free from the academia. This was a kind of approach we used to convince many people to come to the room and to see, definitely showing them how they can benefit from the projects. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much for this. It's really interesting to see how you dealt with this and how you try to incentivize the stakeholders. And also, I think this point also, I think Francesco made at the beginning as well, like how can we make sure people get something back for their time and we not just go there and extract data for our projects, but to have really this reciprocal exchange with people. So it's not just one-sided for, you know, our task and our reports and so on, but really something tangible that people can also see that if I participate here, I can get something back. It's useful for myself as well. I think this is a really good point. I think Rakai wanted to add something.
Yeah. For ONEPlanET, for example, we define a common strategy for engagement. And I think we are having different feedback in the 3 case studies we have in the project. I think for Nkomati Lesotho in South Africa, it is going, I think, quite well. And I think one of the reasons is because we have a partner there, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, with Sitsi Bakira with us today. So I think they already have a trustable and long experience in the past in the area. So they know the water management authorities. They have been working with them in other projects, maybe remote sensing. So they have a trustable relation. So they know who to invite, where to invite, how to involve. So I think that the consultation processes in this case study we are having good feedback. And maybe the opposite case is the one in somewhere. For example, I think in Tanzania, I think there are now many European or international projects going on in the area. So maybe in that case, and we do not have a local partner in the consortium in that area. So for us, it is being more difficult to invite or to involve the right person. And also to keep him, because maybe this person is committed in many other, or he's being asked for many other projects, so we need to demonstrate why it is good for him to work with us, to collaborate with us, to engage with us, and also the distance, how to keep the contact once the workshop is finished. In these other places is a chance.
No, most definitely. I think also the point you made as well that like I think we had this term during the General Assembly as well, like the stakeholder fatigue. I think this is really something to also keep in mind, because when you organize and people have a lot of different engagement, it's really difficult to get them on board as well. I don't know how you face that, Carlos, or was it for you?
No, indeed. That's why we try to move out from the usual stakeholders to try to avoid the stakeholder fatigue. Because we all know in the end is every week there is a different workshop. We are just one more, and we did not want that. But yeah, we are still facing that, because in the end, okay, you organize a workshop you try to go, but in the end it happens in the capital because it's easy to organize. It's easy for you to travel. So in the end, you invite people around the capital. Of course, you want more. Ideally, one of our challenges that we still did not address was the fact that we wanted local people from the basins, especially, for instance, farmers. We were very keen to get local farmers to also avoid this fatigue. These people that they come are going to be extremely committed because they don't do it usually, but it's difficult. And then in between meetings, we also wanted to set up some communication channels. We're thinking about maybe some WhatsApp distribution groups and to keep maybe doing webinars, and it's difficult to keep the communication.
Maybe also on that note, because I think we were running a little bit late, so I think this will be the last kind of question I will give to the panel. Is so we all talk about, okay, we engage the stakeholders, and we try to do our respective models, our respective tools, and so on. So I think we all have a sort of a strategy how to engage people later on. But just coming from the perspective from ONEPlanET, so for us, it's mainly the knowledge hub with the capacity building skills and with the Web Nexus toolkits, with the series game. But also maybe it's a question also for people who are a bit more advanced, or maybe also for you, Francesco, how you maybe already envision how to get there. Like, how are we then, after having created all these tools and all these things, how do we keep people engaged with what we have produced afterwards? How do we communicate the results of our work to people who have been involved, and how do we sort of give back afterwards?
Yeah, I jump in the discussion. Thank you for the question. As we are at just an early stage of development of the projects, we are just planning now, but what we see that is quite important, is quite relevant also in approaching this long-term sustainability of the project, is from the very beginning propose to a specific group of stakeholders, which is composed by several stakeholders, public, private, institutional sector, a calendar of activities. So not just working on a strategy for engaging them at the very beginning or in a specific phase of the project, but a tactic for the 3 years of the project. So what we are trying to do is propose to a specific group of stakeholders, country by country, a calendar of activities. So not only this October, we are going to have the first co-design workshop and nothing more. We are proposing to a specific group of stakeholders, country by country, a calendar of activities, which means we are not proposing a one-shot event. We are proposing a process, a pathway to consider together for the finalization and testing of a specific tool. So this is one of the approach we are experiencing that we think it's quite valuable also for creating a sense of ownership in the stakeholders we are engaging with. So in this way, engagement and ownership are quite a similar concept that we are trying to implement in this very early stage of the project.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting, especially I like that you spoke about ownership, that people feel like they've been part of something, and something that they have been, really involved and not just consulted from time to time. I think I really enjoyed or liked the term that you used, ownership. I don't know if Marina or Pacific, if you want to have a comment on this as well.
Yeah, just maybe a few comments regarding this. It's like when we're talking about ownership, for example, at the beginning when we're contacting the stakeholder, let's say by mail, it was kind of more virtual. But when, for example, we came to them with, let's say, the preliminary results with some limitation and showing them what we are capable to do and how they can improve maybe the results to make them more meaningful to them, and maybe to honor it, and maybe later on, for example, at the government agency, how they can translate the outputs into let's say, some strategic plan that, let's say, maybe convince them more. Yeah, when we started to discuss based on, let's say, concrete results, but not only what we can, let's say, hypothetical scenarios. Yeah.
Thank you. No. This was me, equal, I think. Anybody wants to add, or otherwise, I think there were some questions. There's one. Thank you for the invitation, the presentation. What could be the opportunities to develop synergies for sustainable energy transition in Africa? It's moving. In fisheries, aquaculture, associated value chains and blue economy within ONEPlanET and or Horizon Europe funding programs? Does anyone want to address that question? Yes. Is there any component where we look at fisheries maybe in the modeling or?
Yeah, I think in our models, we are including these activities. For ONEPlanET, we will address these risks.
Yes, I think for us, it's more like part of the overall model because we don't really look at like separated things. So it's really the web nexus approach. So we take the water, energy, and food all together. And of course, fisheries kind of cover all these three areas. So it is integrated into the model, but it's not like a separate area where we have a lot of focus. I hope this answers the question. And the other question was, how could the strategy be tailored to Tunisian local context and to its specific features? Tunisia enjoys a unique geographical location and availability of solar energy. It is an Arab country with an African identity, which supports the prospects of developing cooperation in renewable energy, electric engines, and combating climate change. So what would be, does anyone, I don't know if anyone has a background working with Tunisia. I think someone wants to
join of the countries.
Yeah, I think it's not really
yet.
not really covered by us.
For application.
Yes, it's a really interesting question, but I think none of us is experts in this area yet. Maybe for the coming projects, I don't know. And I think if there are no further comments, I would like to. Sorry, Tunisia.
You're Tunisia in
Morocco. Yes, then I would like the speakers and thank you for your input, and I hope we can pick up this conversation at another point with more time. Thank you so much.
Maybe we can just, or I just speak close to you. Since we reached the end of the time foreseen for today's event and finalized also on the panel discussion, I would just like to thank all the participants in the room and online and all the speakers for this very interesting, so the inputs that you bring to the table. And I think we can officially close here the event. And thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Yes.